All right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about the updated Frost Death Knight changes. And guys, they did it. Blizzard actually listened to the feedback. These changes are awesome. I'm very excited to go over them with you guys. And I know my last video was pretty long. I'm going to try and do this in a concise way, I promise. And then at the very end, we'll talk a little bit about Unholy and some of the changes that I still think that it needs. Let's get started. All right, guys, let's start with the tuning. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about the numbers tuning. A lot of this stuff is just going to be as we get tested. They want to make sure that all of the buttons feel good to press. However, some of the actual gameplay designs I want to cover. So one thing is that Frost Scythe now shatters Trollbane's Chains of Ice. This was a complaint by people that in multi-target they were still having to use Obliterate a lot for Trollbanes if they were using Rider of the Apocalypse. They fixed it. They actually listened and they fixed it. Same thing with Frost Scythe now adding a Stag to Undeath. Well done, Blizzard, for taking that feedback. Developers note, we appreciate the continued engagement and feedback on Frost Death Knight updates. This week, we focused on refining Frost Scythe interactions, improving resource economy, tuning damage output, and we've made several gameplay adjustments based on community feedback. These are going to be the ones that I'm going to focus on the most because numbers can change. Numbers can change. But actually, focusing on the design and how the gameplay works and how it feels and interacts, that stuff matters a lot with these sort of, I won't call it a rework, but these sort of big changes. So, Cryogenic Chamber has been updated. It no longer replaces Remorseless Winter. This is nice because a lot of people still want to be using Remorseless Winter. I think that's a great change. Frozen Dominion has been updated. Pillar of Frost casts a Remorseless Winter that lasts 4 seconds longer. Each enemy hit with Remorseless Winter increases your mastery by 8%, up to 40% for 15 seconds. Now replaces Remorseless Winter. So this one is really, really big because people were a little upset that you weren't going to have the mastery on Pillar of Frost anymore with Frost Whelp going away. This is a great change because if you want that mastery on Pillar of Frost, you now have it. You have access to it. Frost Reaper has been updated. Obliterate deals 10% increased damage and has a chance to tether the souls of its target to a nearby enemy to yours. That one, very similar. Frost Strike severs the tethers, dealing Shadow Frost damage to both foes. This is fantastic because before you'd have to obliterate into a Frost Scythe, which didn't always feel the best. You felt a little rune starved, and now you actually have a spender that severs the tethers. This is exactly the kind of gameplay interaction that people were complaining about, and it's been fixed. Fantastic. Well done, Blizzard. We have some tuning here. I mean, all damage increased by 10%. Again, guys, the numbers are subject to change. It's a month and a half away, and they're still going to keep tuning. Don't worry too much about the numbers quite yet. Glacial Advance applies Razor Ice baseline. Fantastic change. This is really, really nice. Glacial Advance damage tuning. We have all runic power spenders now cost 35. Runic power was 40. So why this is significant is because now, if you take that extra, you can take that extra talent that increases your Frost Strike damage, but increases the runic power cost by 5, and you're just where you were before. So this is good change, very good change. Frostbane now triggers from Arctic Assault. Blizzard, thank you. Thank you for this change, because this one, look, Arctic Assault, in case you guys didn't know, Arctic Assault is the glacial advance that comes from a killing machine. So when you hit someone with a killing machine, obliterate, it'll shoot out a glacial advance. That glacial advance is now going to apply Razor Ice baseline, and it has a chance to trigger your Frostbane. Fantastic. So you don't have to just be spamming glacial advances to try and get that proc. Now, the killing machine obliterate is actually going to have some value in that situation, and I think that's an excellent change. gameplay wise, you guys nailed it with updating that. Thank you for listening. I know that's one of the things I said. It's what a lot of people on the forums were saying. Very, very happy with that change. Frigid Executioner, Runic Empowerment now has a 25% chance to refund an additional rune. It was 20%, so some tuning. Again, some tuning. Okay, here's the other thing that we're going to cover. Guys, I didn't think that they were going to listen to this one, but they did. This was another one that I was saying in my like 40-minute video, and other people were saying on the forums, talking about this. I spent a lot of time on this. Empower Rune Weapon is no longer going to incur a global cooldown, but it will have its own cooldown on cast. So what does this mean? This means two things, okay? So number one is that its own cooldown thing, right? That don't worry about that, because what that's really going to do is prevent you from accidentally pressing it twice. And you're also, that's totally reasonable. But it no longer being on the global cooldown means it is not going to feel awful to press. Okay, it's not going to feel like a chore to press this button anymore, whereas before it 100% did. This is a fantastic change. I'm very, very, very impressed, Blizzard, that you listened to this. So I feel like whoever did this change, and did this change, I feel like I owe you a handwritten note of like, thank you. Like, well done. Very, very happy. And let's see. Yeah, some of these other stuff are not as impactful. So guys, these were the changes that the Frost Death Knight community was asking for. These are fantastic changes. I think with this, design wise, it is going to be in a really awesome place. I am a PvP player. I play a lot of PvP on top of PvE. So some of the stuff I'm still curious with. Glacial Advance isn't really played in PvP. Frost Scythe isn't really played in PvP. I think that some of this stuff will need PvP tuning, obviously. Frostbane specifically is going to need a big PvP modifier in order for it to ever be worth taking in PvP, because Frost Strike has a high PvP modifier. So these are things that is going to come with tuning. They're going to come with tuning, but as far as listening to the feedback and making targeted changes, they nailed it. I mean, credit where credit is due, guys. I made a 40-minute video of saying like things that I think could be changed and made better. People were posting on the forums nonstop about this, and they took that feedback and they listened. So Frost is in a very, very good place design-wise with these changes. Again, everything will come down to numbers, but as far as the design, they've modernized it. They've added new animations. They've added new interactions. They've made buttons feel good to press. They made it so that none of the buttons are going to feel like a chore. They've removed Death and Decay. Guys, they nailed it on these Frost changes. All right. And I'm very, very, very impressed. Now, if you are thinking about trying Frost, it's going to feel really refreshed and nice to play. For the Unholy section, I'm actually going to pull up the class writer for Unholy. He did this write-up. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I am just sharing this for visibility. He does a lot of work on theory crafting and simming, talents and gear and stats, and he's very, very technical and knowledgeable about this stuff. And you know, he made a point that he wants as many eyes on this kind of stuff as possible to get traction. And I am trying to support him in that. So I'm pulling up this article and I'm going to cover some of the things that he talks about. I'm not going to read through the whole thing. It will be linked in the description of the video if you want to check it out for yourself. But some of the things that he talks about, primarily, first things first, guys, raid buff. Raid buff, raid buff, raid buff. Blizzard, if you are listening to this video, if you are listening to feedback, please sit up in your chair right now. I just gave you a whole bunch of compliments for Frost. I am going to tell you when you are doing things right, and I'm going to tell you when you are doing things maybe not so right, in my opinion. Look, Abomination's limb was removed. And the primary reason for this, Blizzard said, was because Grip is viewed as a raid buff, and Abomination's Limb was kind of taking that spotlight away. Now, the problem here is that Abomination's Limb is very strong. It's very, do not get me wrong, it is a very, very, very strong movement displacement tool. However, there are other classes, Druid, Monk, Evoker, Demon Hunter, that all have very powerful movement displacement abilities, on top of all of these having a raid buff. So this whole Abomination's Limb being removed, I think the thing that really didn't get thought through here, or maybe it did, and you just, I don't know if you're open to feedback here, but I hope you are. Look, this is going to screw Death Knight and Mythic Plus, especially Blood. I mean, how do you compete with a Vengeance Demon Hunter without, like, Gorfiend's Grasp is not easy to take as Blood. You have to sacrifice really good talents for it. And I mean, Death Knight in general, not having a raid buff and not having Abomination Limb now that's rough, man. That's rough. And I want to talk again a little bit about this, guys. The easiest solution for you, Blizzard, moving is just giving them a raid buff, giving us a raid buff, because you are in a position now where if Death Grip is considered a raid buff, every single encounter moving forward would need to have some grippable ad. And I really don't think, I mean, maybe you do want to do this, but I think pigeonholing yourself to every single encounter has to have that in common in order to cater to one class is a whole lot harder than just giving that class a buff. And Death Grip is strong, don't get me wrong, but all these other classes have strong abilities too. Death Knights is just, it's a movement displacement, right? Some of them have, you know, Evoker can make you Evoker can make your movement come back, which for some encounters is going to be very, very, very strong, and that's okay. But the problem is, how people queue the game right now is they go into looking for group and they queue up for a specific raid boss they need loot from. And if that boss is a single target encounter, no one's going to want to take the Death Knight. They just aren't. And that's how people play your game. So I really think you got to start looking at Death Grip as not a raid buff. We'll move on, but seriously, like, now is the time to get a free win with a lot of people. You will make a lot of people very happy. They'll feel heard. People next season are going to be happy that they get to bring a Death Knight who brings them a raid buff, because, I mean, it helps the other people around them. You know what I mean? Everyone wins. Okay. Now, the stand lane changes. Again, I want to talk about things that I still think need to be changed. Okay. So, Plague Mastery and Grave Mastery. Look, everyone knows right now, Unholy scales terribly with Critical Strike. It doesn't have anything in its tree really that goes off a Critical Strike. It just doesn't do well with this stat. Now, how it seems like you tried to fix it was with these talents. The problem here is that you're going to be forced to take Critical Strike just for these specific talents, and it's going to have no other interaction in your kit. I think, look, I know you're trying to fix this. This just isn't it. And you know, as he mentioned, on PTR, it's hard to judge because Grave Mastery is bugged. So I'm just rereading this a little bit with you guys. Look, because you need crit in order to make these work, you need a certain level of crit to get any value out of them, because that's just the way that they're designed. You're in this weird cycle of you need crit, but you don't want crit, but you need it for these talents, but you really don't want it for anything. Like, I think that this just needs to be changed. This just needs to be changed. Flat out. I don't know how else to say it. Desecrate. It just doesn't do enough damage. I mean, this is a tuning thing. It's cool in design. It just Desecrate does not do enough damage. Legion of Souls. I know you guys got rid of A-Bomb Limb and added this for Unholy. Legion of Souls is great. It does exactly what you need it to do. All Will Serve, also great. We talked about that before. Reaping Change, also great. I'm trying not to make this video very long. Can you tell? Can you tell I'm skipping through this a little bit? All right. Now, last couple things I'm going to talk about here. Look, and I think you mentioned it up here with wounds. Guys, Blizzard, wounds are not fun gameplay. Just remove them. Just rip off the band-aid, remove them, add some other interaction between the diseases and your pets, and call it a day. They're not fun. No one likes them. They're combo points that are tied to individual enemies, just like they are in vanilla for rogues. But now we're going to be flooded with them. We're not going to feel like we can pop enough, and they're not fun to pop. I mean, they're not a fun ability. They're not a fun mechanic. Just please, 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 if you're going to make these changes, if you're going to make changes to Unholy, and like, I know you guys probably aren't going to touch it with this big sort of mini rework in the same way for a long time. So I really am hoping that our voices are heard on this now. Please, 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 please just remove wounds. We don't like it. So the biggest things here, guys, first and foremost, Death Grip is not a raid buff. Death Knight needs a raid buff. 2, please remove wounds. Please remove wounds. These crit talents, where were we? These crit talents need to be adjusted. And number 4, this was mentioned at the very end. You updated these pets. Blizzard, where is pet customization? Where is it? I'm still waiting on it. I want customization for the ghoul. All right, guys, thank you for watching. I tried to make this video a lot shorter than the last one. Please feel free to leave feedback, comments below on things you think I could be doing better, things you'd like to see. I really, I spend a lot of time in the comments. I read them all. I appreciate you, and suffer well.